Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Build. This is episode 1.12, and today we'll be discussing the topic networking for human beings. Humor, genuine interest, and authentic connection builds community. We'll be featuring my first 3 jobs in legal tech and how I make industry friends. Who am I? My name is Brittany Hernandez, and you can also call me the beat emoji, as my friend Emily does, or M, or you can call me Peanut or Brittle. In either case, that's what my dad and my uncle call me. I'm from San Diego, California, but I live in London now. I'm a veteran of the United States Coast Guard, where I served for 4 years on active duty as a bosun's mate in Puerto Rico and Alaska. And I am also a lawyer, so I practiced intellectual property and entertainment law in California for a little while. Then I became the founder and CEO for Cormam Kamai LLC and also have my own law practice, Cormam Law. I later got a master's degree with distinction in international film business from the University of Exeter and the London Film School. And after which I became a business development executive or the partner engagement executive at Vala, which I'll go into how I got that job today in this particular topic, because I got that through networking. Then I became a Gavel expert, which was around sort of hybrid, no code, low code, and intersectional development with gig law, which I'll also go into how I networked my way into getting that position as well. I'm also a global ambassador to law schools for Gavel, formerly Documate. And I'll also talk about how networking got me that job as well, as well as the program director and senior instructor for the Law Students in Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellowship, which is going on right now and is part of my role as a global ambassador. And we just started week 10. So there is still time to catch up if you'd like to join us. There is a deadline of March 28th because there's quite a lot of content. So it'd be hard to catch up after that point. But you do need to finish the course in order to be eligible to enter your apps into our hackathon competition. So just wanted to point that out really quickly. I'm also the creator and host of the Lightning Talks for Legal Innovators series, which is in partnership with Gavel. That is actually going to be next Thursday, so a week from tomorrow. And we're going to be having Jacqueline Schaefer, who is the founder and CEO of ClearBrief AI, which just won an award at Legal Week, I believe. So congratulations to her and the team. Great work. I'm also the creator of the free interactive digital magazine that comes out with new issues every Tuesday called Code Word Hex, where I go into more of the actual practical building, whereas this show, the Wednesday Build, which I also host and created, has more to do with some soft skills like networking, things around sort of entrepreneurial mindset, curiosity, things like that. I'm also the founder, course creator, and senior instructor of Cormam Academy, where we have Gavel certification courses, as well as official certification courses in Go Full Page and other ones in Software and Airtable. I'm also the founder of Cormam Retreats, where every December, once a year, I host some lovely ladies who are other founders and high achievers in beautiful places around the world, and we connect and grow our businesses together and plan out our next year. This year, we're looking at going to Portugal, which will be really fun. So let's get into today's talk. So today we're going to be talking about, as I said, networking for human beings. And we're going to talk a little bit about humor. We're going to talk about genuine interest, gratitude, authentic connection. I feel that I am authorized to speak on this topic because one of the people I work with, I had said, that I wanted to introduce this person to someone else that I had recently connected with, who I said reminded me of Aquafina. And she said, works for me. I love Aquafina. Also, you're the best networker ever. So as the best networker ever, I would love to share my tips on how to kind of just get to know people in your industry and create genuine relationships, which I think is kind of the key to finding new opportunities. Is these couple of key things that I will share with you. I'm actually I asked each person if it would be okay if I shared my first messages to them, just to kind of show the progression of my career and how I was able to get into legal tech, coming from a law background as a practicing attorney, and also as a student, because I went through my MA program as well. And then we're going to pull out some lessons learned along the way that kind of go within these categories. So these aren't necessarily going to be talked about in order: gratitude and authentic connection, genuine interest, and humor. But we're going to kind of mix these together and kind of see them in practice along the way as we look back on my messages to these people. So that being said, one of the first things I wanted to share with you is my golden rule for networking. So B's golden rule for networking is this: connect with the human being, not the title. So I'm going to go into that specifically, but let's just talk about it for a second here. So for my golden rule, as I say, connect with the human being, not the title. And obviously I'm playing on the word here of being on purpose to kind of lessen the seriousness of networking. Networking can be awesome and fun and interesting because what you're doing is you're getting to connect with another person who may have similar interests to you, which is like making a new friend. So I know we kind of in the realm of so especially in the legal profession, especially when you're talking about connecting with other lawyers, and we have this sort of idea that we need to be super serious and professional. And I had this when I was in law school as well. And I used to call everyone sort of like Mr. or Ms. or Miss, whatever else. I used to say like whatever very specific, very serious title. And I remember working for Sam Mazzio of Wilkinson Mazzio, and I was an intern or a law clerk, and I kept addressing him as like Mr. Mazzio in my emails to him, and he was like, that is not our company culture here, please call me Sam. And I just couldn't do it. It was really hard for me. So the first thing is to, well, obviously if somebody asks you to call them Mr. or Mrs. or whatever else non-binary title, then do that. But the golden rule here is really about remembering that you're connecting with a human being. And when we talk about the human being, I want you to think about that as that sort of underlying layer of humanity behind the person's title. So people's titles change all the time and very quickly and very often. So if you're trying to kind of get to know someone just because of their title, then it's actually going to fall flat and work against you, I feel, because it can be sensed. People can feel that. And also, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, for example, where them connecting with you gives them access to more connections within your network. And people will, it's kind of like a social proof kind of situation where they want to be seen as trustworthy and kind of borrow your name and your sort of kind of like you're giving the okay that they connected with you. So people can sense that, or you should be able to sense that. And one of the hard things for me was when people would start to try to connect with me, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, or used to be at least a recovering people pleaser. And so I wouldn't want to make people feel bad if I ignored their connection request or use the X symbol when it comes on LinkedIn. But you should protect the people who are in your network. I think that you should protect yourself and your network from people. Not like they're not, obviously they're just trying to do their job. For example, if they're a salesperson or something. But I think that you should protect the like overall point of having mutual connections, and that your connection should mean something. And when you give your face to someone else's profile that says that you're connected to that person, I would want for you to just remember that that should mean something. So let's go back to this point of this rule around connecting with the human being. So part of this is a little bit from something that helped me get over being mad at my father. So I know it's always fun to talk about like father issues or whatever, but basically I had a hard time with my dad for about a year. And you know, for whatever, like there were legitimate reasons on my part that I felt I could be mad at him. But it made it really awkward because this is my father, so we always see each other at lots of things, lots of family events, and I just wanted to kind of get over it, but it was hard to do. So I was reading this book that I highly recommend called I'll just show you kind of from Audible. So this is a book by Jen Sincero, and this book here. So in this book, she said something that completely changed my perspective about my relationship with my dad. What she said was, we're all just little bunnies working on our issues. So I really kind of took that, and it allowed me to forgive my dad, because I realized that he is just a person working on his issues just like me. And it was the first time that I ever really looked at my dad as being separate from being, as having any role other than being my dad, if that makes sense. Sort of the fact that he had a childhood, the fact that he probably had some heartbreak in his life, the fact that he had different parents than I have, and that they probably made mistakes that turned him into the person that he is. And he might have deep-seated insecurities about something. And this idea that that visual for me was really impactful, to say he's just a little bunny working on his issues, just completely transformed my relationship with him and my ability to just sort of move on. So when we think about that, I want you to kind of apply that same sort of idea of connecting or recognizing the bunny, but in this case, the bean, in your professional networking, when you're going out there to network, is that you want to connect to the bunny or the bean that you're talking to, and remember that they're a person who has a family, who goes to the movies, who goes out to dinner with their friends, who gets their nails done or their hair done, or gets a new gray hair and feels scared about aging, and they feel shame and vulnerability, and they feel insecure. It doesn't always have to be negative things. They feel joy, they feel excitement, they feel proud about what they're doing, they feel bored, they feel that all of these different human emotions, I think, help, because I feel less afraid to reach out to someone that I admire, the work that they're doing, when I remember that they're a person. And actually, there was a person that I got connected to that really drove this point home for me as well. I won't say who this person is because I haven't asked them if I can talk about like our conversation or anything, but it illustrates this rule and this golden rule. So I have one of my dad's cousin. They live in a beautiful area in Calabasas, California, which has a lot of people who work in the entertainment industry. And at the time, I was in law school, and I knew that I wanted to kind of go into intellectual property and entertainment law. So my dad's cousin sort of knew someone who worked at a company that produces a major television show that you would know. And she was very high up in the legal department and has later now been promoted even further higher up. And so so what I'm going to say here is that, so my dad's cousin's wife, knew this person, and they were close to each other. And when I was at a family party and I was kind of talking about my plans for the future and everything, my dad's cousin's wife said, "Oh, I know so-and-so who works at such and such of a company, and I know that she does something in entertainment law. Would you like me to connect you if she says it's okay?" And I said, "Absolutely. I would love to have a call with her if she's willing to just chat with me for a little bit." And one of the things that kind of really resonated with me about what she said as well in that conversation was, our kids used to go to the same school. And so we would see each other at like pickups and drop-offs, and, at different sort of school events and things like that. And her husband is friends with my husband, and they go to concerts together and so on. And so the visual also of this super high-powered female attorney, who's sort of like the boss of this department and now sort of in a very high position in that particular organization, was at sort of like mom kid drop off, just really also transformed the way that I look at people in those positions, because like, oh yeah, they have families, they have they have kids that make a mess in the house and draw on the walls while they're in a meeting and crawl all over them when they're trying to have a Zoom call. And and cuddle them at night, and they kiss their kids before bed or read them a story. So I think when we really stop thinking about this as sort of networking and professional networking, and I think instead we look at connecting with another human being, or human being in this case, who has a life outside of their job, I think that you will understand how to network better, just understanding this very fundamental point, which is that you are talking to a human being who has a family and a life and interests outside of their job, and that they go through the same types of things that you go through. So when you're feeling some type of way and throughout your day, they've also probably experienced that same thing. So at any time, you can connect to the human being who is the person who's in front of you, and not to their title. As I said, that title could change. And people, as I said, can sense that you are not being genuine. So another thing I'd like to mention here, I just thought this picture really illustrated this point the way that I wanted to, which is, I know I'm sort of self-quoting here, but this came to me and I thought it was worth quoting myself. That things that come naturally can be directed strategically. So if you're naturally funny, if you're naturally, silly, if you're naturally awkward, if you're naturally gregarious or charismatic, and not everyone is, let's say you're naturally more quiet or observant or expressive or whatever else, things that come naturally to you can be directed strategically. In my case, for example, I'm generally very friendly and a little bit silly and playful, and sort of, I like to kind of engage people and talk to them as if we're already friends. And as you could see kind of in the past, though, I was a little bit more serious and I wasn't allowing that to be the case. And you could see that it actually hindered my relationship with, not hindered, like we still got along, but to say that I was asked repeatedly to stop being that way. And I think it was partly because they hired me because in my interview, I was very creative and expressive, but I wasn't really showing that after I got the job. So he was like, we hired you because of the fact that you're cool. So be cool and stop trying to be someone that you're not. So I think that is a super important lesson to learn. And I appreciate Sam for kind of pointing that out to me. And I still remember, I'm still talking about it today, several years later. I still remember him just being like, you don't have to call me Mr. Mazzio, please call me Sam. So just remember, things that come naturally can be directed strategically. So it's okay that you're more silly, or that you are more awkward or more quiet or whatever else, as long as you direct it more strategically. So let's go into that a little bit now. So when I say that, and we talk about my career trajectory in legal tech and how I got the jobs that I have now, you will see that in some of the examples I'm going to show you. So the first thing I would say is I'm going to take you on a little bit of a timeline tour of these conversations. So the first is going to be Dorna Moini. So Dorna is the CEO and founder of Gavel, formerly Documate, which is the company that I currently have a position with. So Dorna was doing a sort of, she was doing a presentation as part of a passport to practice course that I was a part of. So I was doing the Access to Law initiative with my school, California Western School of Law, and they offered to let us be part of this passport to practice, which was also in tandem in conjunction with, and ran simultaneously with Legal Tech Essentials with Dan Katz and Dirk Harden. And I was watching her session and I thought it was amazing. And I thought it was super interesting. And so I just quickly sent her a connection request and a little note that just said, this was back in 2020. And one point I'll quickly make here is that I didn't want anything from her. I wasn't trying to connect with her to get the job that I have now. I was just interested and intrigued with what she had going on and the way that she was as a person. So I said, "Hi, Dorna, I'm watching your passport to practice session right now. What you've built with Document is truly amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain how to create the interviews and use the word add-in. I am so inspired by what you've done. Thanks again." And when I write someone a message, and this is kind of goes back to authentic connection, gratitude, and genuine interest, is I always try to thank the person and recognize that they've exerted some effort to help me. So especially when you are meeting someone through like a webinar or some type of presentation, is it takes effort to do this type of thing. It takes effort to talk for a long time, and it takes effort to stop what you are doing and direct your attention and sort of make a point and then move on and context switch to something else. So when you're talking to someone and you're connecting with someone, I would recommend that you express gratitude and have that be an authentic connection request, that you're actually interested in what they have going on. You have a genuine interest for what they've provided to the world, because they're taking time away from their families, as we talked about, when they are working and when they're trying to do something that is really, at the end of the day, they're trying to help probably you as a person, as the end consumer or user of their products or whatever they're doing. So like I said, one of the things here was I didn't really employ humor in this particular message. What I did was I expressed gratitude. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain how to do this, to express a genuine, authentic connection to this person, saying, "I'm watching this right now, so I'm here with you in this process." And I typically use this type of approach of, "I'm doing this thing right now that you're doing. Thank you for doing that thing with us." And then I give a little thanks again. And what I also like to do is make it to where even if the person didn't connect with me from my message, I just want them to have a moment where they understand that what they're doing is valuable, and to give them out of their small piece of their day, a smile that they're doing something awesome that other people care about and that is appreciated. So like I said, even if they never connect with me, I want them to just have a moment where they feel appreciated. And I think that that's something, I mean, it's not necessarily, you could say, like my responsibility, but I know how much it's helped me when someone just says like one nice thing. Because like I said, coming up with material, standing here and not performing, but talking, takes effort and energy and commitment and dedication to whatever you're building and doing as a founder. So to have someone just say like, "Thank you for doing that, it's inspired me in some way," that person can live off of that for years. I had someone, when I was first doing this particular show and Code Word Hex as well, someone just making a comment that was like, "I love your content, like keep it up. What you're doing is great." And I was just like, "Thank you." And that person, we later had a call together, and he said, I was kind of saying, I just want, my goal in life is for someone to have, well, freedom and creative expression and self-determination, but also from a student's perspective, or when I'm giving sort of advice about something, I want them to have a moment where they just have a moment of curiosity and wonder, and to be inspired to think of maybe something new that they could do with something they already have, or just like come up with this new idea, or just to be inspired in some way. So, and he was like, "You've already done that." And I was like, "Great." So just to get that feedback is really nice. So like I said, I like to send messages that are positive and that are full of gratitude and genuine, authentic gratitude. I am here with you, watching what you're doing, and I am inspired. Thank you so much for doing that. She kindly accepted my request back in 2020. So we now work together all the time. Like, this is my job now, is to be a global ambassador to law schools for her company. And I never even knew that this was what I was going to be doing back in July of 2020. So I had just, at the time, as a recent graduate of the of law school and passing the bar exam and everything, and a baby lawyer, really just fresh coming out. I literally graduated in technically January, but I had completed my courses in like December, and then did bar prep from December till February, and then took the bar, and then became a lawyer in May. So this is just 2 months. I was 2 months into being a lawyer and saw Dorna's stuff and sent her this message. And now here we are just under 3 years later, and I work for her, or do work with them to facilitate the program that I was talking about here. So now I do these types of presentations in her place. So instead of her doing this presentation, it's going to be me. So it's such a full circle moment for me to even have this conversation, because of the fact that I literally have the job I have now because of this message here. And we'll come back to it a little bit later, because I'll reconnect with her. You'll see I'll reconnect with her in the timeline a couple of years later. But she kindly said, "Hi, Brittany, thank you so much for attending the session. I had a blast. It's inspiring attorneys like you, constantly improving and learning how to advance the practice, who are the future of our profession. Please let me know if there's anything I can help with in your journey, Dorna." And then she gave me her email address. So I just think she's always so classy. And throughout our messages together, she was always very kind to me. And I was literally a nobody to her at this time. And so she had no obligation to connect with me, no obligation to respond to me, no obligation to be so nice to me. And she just is that kind of way. So I knew all the way back then that she was super classy, and I just loved what she was doing. So in this particular message from me to Dorna back in 2020, you'll see that I expressed gratitude, and I tried to foster an authentic connection because I was genuinely interested in what she was doing. I didn't utilize this humor bit. We'll use that a little bit later in different settings, because it's also sort of, like I said, you can apply these things strategically. So it doesn't mean always be this crazy, loud person like myself, like not crazy and everything, but just that you don't always have to be like funny, and you can be strategic about how these things are, and notice when to apply more or less of one thing or the other in a particular situation. You can still be professional and kind. So I think that this is a really good example of that. And so this was the start of what I do now in legal tech and working with Gavel, is this one message. So we'll come back to this, like I said, but this also helped me get my other 2 jobs in legal tech, which we'll go over as well. So in the timeline, this happened first. I took this class while I was a new baby lawyer, and sent this message to Dorna after she did her presentation, and she connected with me, and we sort of kept in touch over the years. But I was never asking her really for anything. I was just saying like, "Oh, I saw this, congratulations. Oh, I saw that, you got an award, congrats," things like that. And that's sort of like nurturing that relationship, where along the way, I'm not asking for anything. And it's okay to ask for something if you want something, but I wasn't trying to do something when I connected with her. I was just thinking that she was awesome, and I wanted to connect with somebody who's awesome. So the next thing that happened is, so if we fast forward a little bit, then I took a class, I took my master's degree. So we're going to go into how I got my second job. So technically, this is how I got my first job. So the first message will lead to sort of my job now. But in the timeline of things, this message came first, and then we'll talk about how I got my first job in legal tech with a different message to a different person. So in my first real job in legal technology, you could say, that was with Vala. So Vala is an incredible company who is trying to do so many good things for people who have experienced some issues with their employer. So specifically, if you are trying to be a self-representer in an employment tribunal, then this helps you as a platform, kind of like a case management platform, you could say, for self-representers, for non-lawyers. So you can see here some of the stuff that they do. So I worked with Vala for 6 months on a contract, and it was my first job in legal technology. And the way that I got this was through networking with, at the time, their CPTO, Kate Ho. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second and open up this appropriate message because some of the other stuff has more personal things in it. But what happened was I was doing my MA in international film business, and Kate, the CPTO at the time and co-founder of Vala, gave a presentation. So we're sensing a theme here of how I connected with these people. She presented to our class. I thought she was incredible and super smart and interesting. And what she said was really interesting and valid for what I was going to be doing for my dissertation. So my dissertation idea was to utilize legal technology like Gavel, at the time it was called Documate, to create a sort of international copyright comparison tool. And I still think it's a valid idea, but it would take a long time to build it. And I'm not that patient to kind of, and I kind of have, it's hard for me to it would be hard for me to carry that project all the way out. And it was not really going to be within the scope of the time frame that I had to do that. But anyway, long story short is I mentioned sort of the idea while she was on the call. And actually what happened this day was I actually joined her session halfway through, which is really interesting because I was going to skip that session and kind of got a pass, you could say, for the session because I had a call with somebody from Warner Brothers at the same time. So I was talking to someone I had kind of met through a mutual friend, and I just couldn't cancel the call with Warner Brothers to attend the class. So it turned out that my call with Warner Brothers went through. We still had the call, but it wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. So I was actually able to join the class after the call. And that's when I was able to kind of join in. And she asked for people to share their kind of storyboards of how they might create an app, for example, and walk through the user journey. So I shared my idea and talked about my dissertation project idea and where the pain points might be. And she kind of talked us through that. So she kind of knew that I was a student who talked in her presentation type of thing. And so when I reached out to her after her presentation, I expressed gratitude. I said, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to our MA International Film Business class today. Such a fascinating discussion and super relevant to my dissertation project that I mentioned when I showed my storyboard. Would love to connect. So here, what we'll see from March 2021, I expressed gratitude. I was specific about why I thought that we had an authentic connection, and I expressed genuine interest in what she talked about and what she's doing. Such a fascinating discussion and super relevant to my dissertation project. Would love to connect. So what you'll see here is that she said, hey, Brittany, I got super excited by your project because I've been working in legal tech. So much opportunity in between the intersection of legal and the entertainment industry. Be excited to see how you get on. Then I kind of said, yes, I was happy to hear, blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of mentioned, so this is kind of what I was saying about a call to action is okay sometimes as well, early. So when I first connected with her, I didn't ask her for anything. I just said, thank you. After she kind of expressed a little bit of interest in hearing how I was doing and my project was going on. And I genuinely felt that as well when we were talking on the call too. I said, we're allowed to have industry mentors for the dissertation. I'd be honored if you'd be interested in being one of mine. I think our interests and passions align really well, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the project along the way. So you can see here that I've invited her to have a conversation with me around being an industry like a mentor for me for my dissertation project, which is a little bit bold because we only kind of talked for one time. But I'm at the same time, you can see that I'm being very and this is all natural. Obviously, I'm not trying to do something necessarily here. It's what I was talking about, how things that come naturally can be applied strategically, is I'm just being myself here and saying like, thanks, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also saying like, I think that we might get along. And actually she didn't just become my mentor. I had a different mentor, but she actually became my academic supervisor. So that was so crazy because I actually got in trouble for asking her, not by her, but by my faculty advisor for my dissertation at the London Film School, because she was like, we're supposed to find your mentors, not you. You're not supposed to ask them. But because I asked her, I was able to have a call with her where we just chatted for like 30 minutes or so. And we had a one-to-one where I just talked about my project, got her feedback, and thought she was awesome, and just like thanked her again for taking the time to chat with me because she's busy. And it was during that call, I got some, just like I said, some great feedback from her. I really wanted to work with her and just kind of pick her brain. She's an absolutely brilliant person. And anyway, so what ended up happening is she later became, I kind of requested her as one of my mentors. I think I emailed my faculty advisor and I was just like, I want this person to be my advisor or mentor because she's amazing. I think what she's doing is really relevant to what I'm doing. Like, I want her. And the person was a bit like, slow your roll, we'll ask. And they did. And she said yes. So I was able to have the incredible Dr. Kate Ho, she has a PhD, Dr. Kate Ho as my academic supervisor, just because I sent a message to her on LinkedIn and just said, like, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. I think what we have is really aligned, and what we talk about, the things that you talk about are things that I think about, and I think we'd get along. It's kind of like asking someone on a date, weirdly, because you're just like, hey, looks like we have similar interests. Like, want to have a chat? Want to have a coffee? And so in that same vein, in a more platonic and professional way, you're just saying like, hey, I think you're cool. I'm cool. Maybe we should hang out together and do stuff. So we ended up working for several weeks together, or I guess it was however long the term was, on my dissertation project, where we met, I think, 5 times. Where I would kind of explain where I was at in the project. And then she ended up grading my project and liked it, and gave me some very, very solid advice. And so what ended up happening after that is, let me just kind of get to this next part here, which is, so we had our last session, and I kind of graduated, and I let her know, and I thought it was great. And then what ended up happening too is I actually wasn't trying to get a job with them at all at first. And I was actually applying to positions as a lawyer in California, but I ended up wanting to stay in London because my partner lives here, and he has a job that he is a police officer, so he has to be here physically. So I wanted to find a way to stay here in London, but all of my qualifications really were, as far as being a lawyer, were in California. So it was difficult to get a job because they were like, well, we like you, but can you come to California? And I was like, kind of no. So I had a hard time and struggled to find a job after I graduated with my MA. And I was so frustrated because I was like, I am literally the most educated I've ever been in my life, and I cannot get a job. It was so hard. So during that time, I actually set up my company and I had an opportunity to just do other things outside of school and have some time, because I wasn't taking on any more clients at the time. I had taken clients on while I was doing my MA from sort of like a traditional lawyering perspective, but I was deciding at that juncture that I was more interested in legal technology than traditional legal practice, and had a lot of ideas for things like apps and how we can utilize technology to increase access to justice. So my interests were kind of more towards the technology side. So I was kind of conflicted about the applications I was putting in. So it kind of was a blessing that I was where I was and that I didn't get those jobs, because I would never have gotten to the place where I am now, which is amazing, and I love it. So what ended up happening is I was on LinkedIn one day and I saw that Kate was hiring, or her company was hiring for a business development executive. And at the time, as I said, I was having a hard time. And you'll see also, I won't show this message here, but after she had already sort of been my academic supervisor and we'd already kind of wrapped things up, I kind of just later kept in touch and sort of whatever else. But I said, the way I got this job, which was my first job in legal technology, was I sent her a message on December 8th, 2021. And I said this, I'll just show you. I said, "Hi, Kate. I hope you're doing well. My graduation ceremony is this Friday. I can't believe it's already here. I saw your post that Vala is hiring. So exciting. I love what you're doing with Vala, and I'd love to join the team. So I just submitted my application for the business development executive position. We worked well together during my dissertation project, and you had a chance to see my work ethic and intellectual as well as professional capabilities and qualifications in action. In any case, I'm so happy for you that you're in a position to grow the team and wish you so much luck as you move forward. Sincerely, Brittany." So as you can see here, I have employed the same kind of concept that I did when I kind of was saying that I want to send messages to people that even if they don't respond, they're still like happy. So even if she didn't say anything, I just wanted her to like genuinely know that I was really happy for them and that it was okay if she said no, that she could understand that my experience wasn't really in business development and that I was a lawyer and probably didn't have the experience needed to do that job, but that I was really excited about her project and that I was really interested in helping her grow. And I thought we worked well together on my dissertation, and she got to see how I work, how I respond to feedback, and who I am as a person. And I was just like, well, I mean, might as well give it a shot. I mean, I thought that our relationship was good and that we were able to work well together, and that she got enough of a sense of who I was as a person that maybe she would be willing to hire me even if I didn't have a lot of experience, which she ended up hiring me, which was, I'm so grateful for that, because I learned, they basically had to teach me how to be that person. They had to teach me things like, what is a sales funnel? And this is how you do outreach. And you need to cut your emails down because they're a whole page long and that's too much. So, you know, I'm so grateful to this day for the 6 months that I got to spend helping Vala. I hope that I was helpful and not a hindrance to anything with my lack of experience. But I just want to say that is how I got my first job in legal technology. It all started from being in a position where I could hear from people who were doing things that were interesting. Then I connected with them on a genuine level and expressed gratitude for them being there. And then later ask them to do something. You know, it doesn't mean that all relationships end up with me asking them to do something for me, but it put me in a position where I could see the job ad come through on LinkedIn and consider whether that might be something that I might be interested in. And even if it wasn't necessarily me creating the legal tech product itself, I still got to be on a team that was creating legal technology from scratch, like coding things from scratch. So that process taught me about agile development, taught me about being on a team, taught me that I was really kind of better not being somebody's employee, not any disrespect to the team, but just because I personally was used to working alone. And it was really hard for me to navigate so many different relationships and all of the different things. So I won't really go into that piece, but just to say, like, I am grateful for the time that I had at Vala, and I appreciate Kate for giving me a chance, and Danae, her co-founder, Danae Shell, because they both took a chance on me. They actually paid me more than the job ad, even though I had less experience, because they knew I was a lawyer and that, you know, it would be helpful to kind of pay for some loans to help me out. So anyway, long story short, is this kind of golden rule of seeing this as a person to say, like, hey, even though I don't have that much experience in the field that they're kind of looking for, maybe they would take a chance on me because I'm very genuinely excited about what they're doing, and I would work hard to learn and make up the difference. So we'll kind of leave it at that. So that's how I got that job. I interviewed twice with them. Kind of in the first one, I kind of showed them, had like a PowerPoint presentation and everything prepared, and I was like way extra. And then the second one, I did more listening. And then they made me the offer, and I got to work with them and an amazing team, and got to make friends and learn a lot about legal tech, and especially in the UK, as well as make connections with people that are genuinely like just good people with human beings. So let's move on next to how I got my second job in legal technology, which was at Giglaw. So that is with Haley Leviashvili. And let me just pull up this message really quick. So this is actually kind of interesting. So what ended up happening is while I was working at Vala, let me just pull up one thing really quick before I go into this. Perfect. Okay, this is a funny story actually. Okay, so what ended up happening is when I was working at Vala, we ended up, I ran a project where I put together a workshop where 24 or so different nonprofit organizations in the UK from England, Wales, and Scotland came together to put together a resource guide. So I used Gavel to create a resource guide that would hide or show things based on in the guide, that output at the end, that would show or hide based on somebody's answers to a couple of questions. So it was sort of like, would the resource guide be for you or for a friend? And then if it was for you, then it would ask like, where do you work? Like, which country do you work in? And then it would be like England, Wales, or Scotland. And then it would be like, what are you interested in learning about? Age discrimination, because it was specifically around discrimination in employment. So it was like, are you interested in learning about age discrimination, pregnancy discrimination, or whatever else, all these different categories, all the protected categories. And then in the output document, it would show or hide sections of text based on their answer. So that was how I kind of structured it. And it worked out really well. So during that time, well, what happened was I just remembered that I had my Gavel account from 2020 from that first message, and just sort of tried to build it and thought, well, this is awesome. I like this. And so I thought about maybe that could be my next job, because I knew my time with Vala was a fixed time. So we were just doing it for 6 months. So afterwards, I needed to find a job for after that. And what ended up happening there was, while I was creating the resource guide, I just really liked it. I just thought Gavel was fun. I liked, at the time it was called Document, but I just liked it. I thought, wow, this is like, I like building with this tool. It's fun. There's a lot of instant gratification when there's a lot of sort of, delayed gratification as well, because it can take a long time to build something. But I liked the process of building something like that. So I kind of got more into the building side. So I thought, I wonder if there's a way to do this sort of as my next job, is to build these types of workflows, because it seemed like I was pretty good at it naturally and quickly. So I ended up going on this page on the Gavel website where it says Gavel Automation Developers. And these are a bunch of people who are really good, like Gavel experts who are really good at the platform. So I literally just went through here and I grabbed everyone's name that I possibly could. I just was like, Haley Leviashvili, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn. Megan Slytel, I'm going to connect with you. Actually, this is a new person. So I haven't connected with this person yet, I don't think, maybe. But I just kind of went through and was like, who has a first and last name on here? Misty. Okay, got you. And I just went through on LinkedIn and just copied and pasted their names into here. And actually, that's how I became friends with Anja Sarah, I believe. And that's how I became friends with a lot of these people, actually, even Mauricio and Paul Sutton as well. And yeah, I became friends with this person. We had a call on the same day that I sent the message out, and we talked for 10 minutes and almost got a job with him as well. Just by kind of going through this page and being like, these are some people who are doing some things that are interesting to me and that I think are cool. And I literally spent 8 minutes networking by pulling their names from this and finding them on LinkedIn and sending them. I actually sent them all this message, and this isn't to downplay like, oh, I didn't, think of each person, but that's sort of what I was saying about like your natural things that come naturally to you can be still applied strategically. So it doesn't mean that it has to take a lot of time on your part, but what you're doing is you're networking with people based on your genuine interests. So I sent everyone a message that said this: I saw that you're an automator with Documate. I'm interested in becoming one, but would love to hear about your experience if you have some time in the next few weeks. Thanks, Haley. And then I would put that person's name. So that's how I became friends, literally, like Megan, Haley, Paul, Mauricio, and Anja Sarah, and like all these people. I just sent them this message, and then they connected with me, and we became friends. And that's how it worked. So actually, she said, thanks for reaching out. My schedule is a bit jam-packed for the next couple of weeks. However, at GigLaw, we're looking to bring on some experienced automators to help us with our workload. Would you be interested in that? We would train you and then connect you with your Documate clients. Let me know your thoughts. And I said, would love to know more. Let me know what you think is best as far as next steps. So we ended up having a call together. She asked me, what would you charge? I told her my price. She said, okay. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome. And yeah, I ended up just working with them. And that was actually like one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And I worked as a contractor. So I had my own company and I would sort of set my own hours. And Haley is an absolutely fabulous person to work with. She's actually like one of my favorite people of all time. And I will get to hang out with her when we go to our retreat in Portugal later this year. And I just think she's a good person. And that's what the thing is like she had a really good energy. She is a genuinely like good person. And I liked working with her because she was also good at like having her natural abilities and tendencies and personality come through and things like emails and stuff. And that made me happy. We would like chat with each other as sort of like colleagues, but also sort of like not as friends. We are friends, but it was a professional relationship that was very professional, but also like we were just nice to each other. And I just really liked that. She sent me like a huge expensive box of like Harrods chocolates because I was doing a good job, things like that. So just from me literally spending, it didn't take me 8 minutes to send this message. It took me only 8 minutes to send this message to all of the people I could find their full names to on one morning. And she just happened to have the response that she had, and she was looking for she was looking for someone in that type of position, and I ended up working with her before I got my job with GigLaw with Gavel that I do now, which is being the global ambassador to law schools. And I had a really hard time letting go of this job, to be honest, because I really liked it and I was really good at it. And she was really appreciative. And I had some great clients that I worked with and I loved them so much. And I actually ended up hanging out with one of my clients from that because we had such a good relationship as well. So I have nothing but good things to say about Haley and GigLaw and her clients and working there because she's amazing. Anyway, long story short is that was my second job in legal tech, which was working as an automator with GigLaw. And it all came from sending this message to people that I just grabbed their names from here and sent them the same message. And her response was, want to have a chat? And I got hired with her. So that's how that worked. The other one, and here you can say that I also kind of employed this sort of idea of genuine interest in what she was doing. I was just asking her if she could chat with me about her experience. I wasn't asking her for a job, but that's how it turned out. And then as we go forward, because we have only 6 minutes left, crazy, is a little bit about how I got my job now. So that has to do with me reconnecting with Dorna later on. And then later I got invited to be the global ambassador. So let me quickly find this, and then I'll quickly talk about a couple of other points before we conclude. So with Dorna, I actually reconnected with her while I was working at Vala, but I think that the message that I sent her is valid and helpful here. So in my message to her while I was working at Vala, April 21st, said, "Hi, Dorna. I'm in Hyde Park listening to your Future Law podcast episode right now and love it so much. Really exciting to hear how much Document has grown over the years. I decided to stay in the UK after my MA. I met a boy, and I'm actually working as a business development exec at a legal tech startup called Vala until July 8th. It's an online case management platform for litigants in person pursuing claims against their employers. Would really love to catch up over a virtual coffee sometime to see where there's any crossover. We have a workshop coming up, and I'd be interested in seeing whether we could use Document over Typeform for a resource guide for attendees I'm building out, but we just need the one workflow, so not sure what pricing would look like. Would be interested to discuss if you have some time next week." So she was kind enough to come back and say, "Brittany, so exciting and congrats on all fronts. The move, relocation, the boy, the awesome career changes. I'd love to catch up next week. Want to pick a time here." We met. I pitched her some ideas about a lot of different ideas, actually. In that meeting, first I asked her if she would be willing to sponsor a workflow by giving us sort of like a demo type of account so that we, because it was for charity, like we weren't making any money from it, and it was for people who were in like a very vulnerable position. And she said yes, which was very kind of her. I sort of put my hat down of the Vala hat and put on my sort of Cormam Kamai LLC hat and said, like, okay, now me talking to you as me, Brittany, with my own company, I would love to chat with you about a couple things. One, I think you should have a Gavel certification course. I think there's a gap in the market, and it's something that I would pay for and use. Two, I think you should have more of a community in the sense that you should have live events, and I'm willing to host them. Lightning Talks for Legal Innovators. At the time, it was first called Lightning Talks for Documenters. So then I kind of suggested that we change it to Legal Innovators to kind of be more broad. So those two things I did with them, or she gave me, she was kind enough to give me an account for 6 months to be able to work on the course, which I later ended up working with Megan on. And then after so we started doing our first lightning talk, I think was in July, end of June or end of July. And Dorna was the first person to do the talk. And then we've been doing that now for 9 months. And from June or July, I think it was June, to August 24th, that was the day that I signed sort of the agreement, I think, to work with them as the global ambassador to law schools. So it was very quickly after this conversation and sort of working with them a little bit for free that I got my third job in legal technology, which is what I do now. Now, quickly as we conclude, I just want to talk a little bit about two other things, humor and sort of one other way to do this. So one quick point I want to make sure I can put in here around humor was, like, it's okay to talk to people sort of as friends or more colloquially instead of professionally. So I met this person, Jamie. He said I could share this message. We met at the an event by VED. So he put on an event at the Eco Labs at Barclays, which was Legal Tech Trends and Predictions Part 2. So Jamie was there and we got along super well. We were like best friends right away. He was just funny and cool and awesome. And we got on and we ended up going on the same sort of tube ride together. So we were talking about things like music and, you know, he was going to a concert and like all the stuff. So I said afterwards, connected on LinkedIn, I said, "OMG, you are so cool, bestie. So fun meeting you. Get home safe. Great to meet you yesterday. I got home safe and I'm now back in the office. I'll be sure to drop you a message next time I'm up in town working. It would also be good to learn a bit more about Gavel as well. I'll check out the website." So I didn't even say anything about Gavel. He just kind of did that on his own. And I said, "Please do enjoy the concert this weekend." So as you can see, I'm saying something silly, using emojis, being funny. Like, that's how we were talking in person, was sort of lightly. Even though we met at a very professional event and he later said he would look into this thing, we're going to go over just a little bit in time if you don't mind, which is that I just was myself and I was talking to him as we were talking in real life, which was, "You're so cool, bestie. So fun meeting you. Get home safe." And I like to employ this sort of like, we're already best friends, even if we only met for 2 hours, because I felt that way. And so I was genuine in saying, like, we're best friends. We can still be BFFs if you don't accept my request, but I thought you were cool. And then that's it. So, I mean, we're like, we haven't done anything together as far as like work wise, but I just wanted to explain that you can, like, he is doing his own like big professional thing on a cool team, doing awesome stuff. But the way that we talk to each other can be more relaxed, and we can still be professional to each other, but at the same time have some fun and relax and have some humor in our conversations. The other ones I wanted to mention, I wanted to quickly point out my conversation with Megan, who is my business partner when it comes to the Gavel certification courses. And I just wanted to show you that I sent her the same message that I sent Haley that ended up getting me the job within that 8 minutes of networking here. I saw that you're an automator with Documate. I'm interested in becoming one, but would love to hear about your experience if you have some time in the next few weeks. Thanks, Megan. She said, good morning. I'd be more than happy to chat. Here's my booking link. So she was really full. She was doing something right now, and she wanted me to book later. We ended up booking, I booked the meeting with her. We had a call. She was amazing and super awesome. I happened to be going to Alaska because I had a house there that I sold last year. I was going to make sure that it was ready to sell. And I happened to stop, my house was in Valdez and she lives in Anchorage. And so I just happened to have a layover in Anchorage for like a day or two. And so we got breakfast together, and I had no intention of doing a course with her, but I just said, hey, I'm doing a course, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, maybe I could help you with that, and I was like, that would be amazing. So we ended up, working together, and she does all the videos for our courses and all the content. Her team's amazing. So that all stemmed from the whole course series came from that conversation with Dorna initially, from my idea and pitching her the idea for it. And then my conversation with Megan, just saying like, this is what I'm doing. And like, this is what we're talking. We're talking over breakfast, and then us following up on that and actually following through. Finally, I wanted to let you know how I ended up getting some speaking engagements, or like specifically one speaking engagement, which is the biggest one. You could say there's another one coming up soon, but it's not official yet, that I can share later, which is my connection with Holger. So Holger is with the European Legal Technology Association, which is a huge deal. And he's so kind and awesome and lovely. I just think he's amazing. But I want to show you how I first got connected with him before he reached out to me about being a speaker. For the Future Law 2023 conference in Estonia, where I'm going to go for a couple of days and get to be one of the speakers on a couple of different panels, and I get to run my own solo workshop. So that is awesome. And so Holger happened to be on a call that I was on. And so basically what I did was I opened up the participants list. This is a bit sketchy. So do this if you want to, but it wasn't like a webinar format, so everyone can see all of the different participants' names. I can't believe I'm doing this. But so similar to what I did here, I literally just went on the participants list during the call and just looked at everyone's names and connected with them. And I sent them this message: loving Jennifer Swallow's webinar on how to angel invest in legal tech startups. Saw that you're here as well. Would love to connect and follow your work, Holger. Hi, Brittany. Happy to connect. All the best, Holger. And I said, thanks. Later, he actually didn't even reach out to me. Wait, let me just think. Yeah, so I think maybe, I can't remember, how did this happen? We ended up having a call together, so I don't know how this sort of like ended up later. Maybe he commented and I don't remember. Something happened in between these messages where, oh wait, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So actually what happened was we connected. Then I later posted something about the Law Students and Legal Tech Access to Justice Fellowship, which probably came up on his feed. Then he recommended me to Valentine, who is the founder and CEO, I believe, of Legid, which has to do with legal technology. And they're doing the event together in Estonia, Elta and Legid and some other people as well. And so Valentine reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a speaker. And then I thanked Holger for recommending me and said maybe, and then we talked about having a chat. So I said, feel free to book a time that works for you. And then we had a call for an hour and he was so cool. I just thought he was awesome. Anyway, so thanks, Holger, for being so cool. But this was how we connected. And that's how I ended up getting a job to speak at this conference in Estonia, which is going to be amazing. So this is what I did. Literally just like went through the list on Zoom and said the same message to everyone and changed the name at the end. So you can automate your networking as well and still be a human being. And you can still make genuine connections, even with that sort of automation process. So you can only expect that for somebody who is in legal tech, that I would automate the networking process in some way. So that's just to say we're going to wrap up now. And thank you for being here. I just want to remind you that the golden rule is connect with the human being, not the title. And to remember that things that come naturally can be directed strategically. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will give you the contact information in a second. But thanks for being here and listening. I hope it was useful. And a few announcements. I'm actually going to skip this for now, except to say that we have revamped our gavel certification courses. So if you'd like to join us, we're going to start doing cohorts, live cohorts, where we meet every Thursday for 4 weeks. And that will cover basic, silver, and gold, as well as the test out part. And you're welcome to join us. We're going to start next week on Thursday. So thank you again. And the next one, which is next Wednesday, will be on quality assurance in new legal tech professions, why I created official gavel certification courses with Megan Sawtell, as you saw that I connected with through that automated means. So I hope that you can join us, and I will see you all next week. Thanks again for being here today. Bye, everyone.